Sucio Talk. Finally back with some guests. Back in this motherfucker. We're in Oakland on the set of Sucio Talk here with Adahlia Cole, badass photographer, food photographer out here in the Bay and the world, really. I mean,
thank you very much.
Yeah, when's the last time you went overseas?
Overseas? I've only been overseas once since the pandemic started, but I did just go to Slovenia. Ooh. And a little bit to Venice. Slovenia was for a work thing, and then Venice was just for a little bit of fun right after.
Okay, dope. Did you eat anywhere cool in Venice?
There were a few places that I ate at that were pretty fun, but I can't remember their names. It was a little bit more casual. We're really just kind of running around and having lots of cicchetti and like. There was a couple of sit-down dinners that were really delicious, but Slovenia, I ate some incredible food. I had one of the best meals of my life.
Okay, where?
At Hija Franco.
Okay.
Was just stunning.
Was chef there?
Yes, she was.
Oh, she's such a badass.
She's such a badass.
Yeah.
She's really fucking cool.
Dude, I remember sitting down with her at Meadowood doing a menu meeting, and she's like, "We need wine." And I was like, "What do you mean you need wine?" She's like, "No, how are we going to think if we don't have any wine?" I was like, "Yo, okay,
love
true."
This. And
then so you're just sitting down talking a menu with her, broad daylight, all the people are just working around you, like doing whatever, and you're just sitting there drinking wine with her and being like, "All right, here we go." Any memorable courses? How is the place when you like walk in? Is it a home kind of style?
It's very it feels, very luxe, but it is very much, you really are driving into I think it's like a 2-hour drive maybe from the main city, or it was like maybe, I think we went, I'm trying to remember if we went directly there. No, that was the first night. It was a several-hour drive to get there, I believe, or maybe at least an hour and a half, maybe. Okay. But you're really kind of going out into the country in Slovenia, and it is beautiful. And then it's kind of, you're going up, and it's this beautiful, like very mountainous region with these really beautiful, incredibly like clear blue-green streams and rivers everywhere. But the very like warm, a lot of fireplaces, and then you go in and there's this, I think it's a red room that you're eating in. And I feel like I have been very privileged in my life to eat incredibly well. And I feel like it's pretty hard to really surprise me, or it's very rare that I'm eating new things or combinations I've never had before. And the whole meal was a revelation, and I didn't even realize till afterwards that it was not vegetarian, but very vegetable heavy. There were very few, I think there were really only 1 or 2 courses that had a significant meat component. Otherwise, the proteins were all really incorporated in sauces, and there were just so many really interesting herbs I'd never had, and just a really thoughtful meal. And also, it's the best non-alcoholic pairing I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah. Just out of this world. I remember 3 non-alcoholic pairings that I was just like, these are up there, both in like pairing with the course and just in how dynamic and nuanced and layered they were. They were up there. I was like, for me, up there was some of the best wines I've ever had. These 3 specific ones were just really incredible, but the whole thing was very thoughtful.
Right. Okay. How many courses about?
I want to say it was like 16 or 18.
16 or 18.
Yeah.
And after you eat the dinner, are you staying around there?
So I was in Slovenia because I was giving a talk at the EU Food Summit. So I was kind of there. Everyone who was a speaker and a lot of the press and stuff, we were kind of on a tour bus, I guess, kind of going back and forth to a lot of really beautiful, beautiful restaurants there. So we didn't stay. We went back to Ljubljana, but I believe you can stay there.
Okay, it's like an inn.
Yeah,
you can have breakfast there.
Yes, I believe so. I think it's kind of a little harbor house-esque in that sort of rural go, and you have this sort of amazing destination meal, and then stay overnight. So
very cool. And you said you spoke at this summit. What did you speak about?
I spoke about the similarities between fine dining and sex work,
Okay.
and working in these two sort of the luxury sectors of these two industries and the overlap and the ways that sex work is a pillar of the hospitality industry. I know, as you know, so we've talked before about this, but
Yeah.
before I was a photographer, I worked in the adult industry. So I have a lot of experience on understanding the correlations since I have worked in both of these arenas, I think.
Right. And so what are the differences or what are the similarities? The main ones.
I mean, I think it's very interesting. They're both hospitality jobs. And I
Right.
think that really what I was trying to communicate to this audience was that sex workers have an often invisible but an unusual purchasing power within the fine dining industry. And whether sex workers are treated with respect in your establishment or not could affect the amount of times that I'm trying to think how to put this. So maybe the sex worker isn't making the reservation, but I don't know anyone else besides a very, very small group of food reporters and small group of very, very intense food obsessed and although extremely wealthy people who go out to the same very fancy tasting menus over and over and over again.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think I've been to Saison like 16 times, Atelier Cren probably like more than 10, like
Right.
you kind of, but you often get to choose sort of where you're going to go to dinner or you have some influence if you're going on a dinner date. So I can think of like one restaurant that I really love and that always made me feel really comfortable when I was there with a client. And I sort of started keeping track of how much money I was bringing into that establishment, both from when I went in personally, when I went in professionally, when I sent in other people to go in professionally with their clients. And I think that it was the last time I had stopped counting, like, around the time that it's been a while, but I think I had brought in just in food sales, not counting wine, $52,000.
Okay.
Just in menus. So, I mean, I think that there is, maybe I have a little bit more influence because food was so specific to my branding.
Right.
What, like, fine dining was a huge part of that. I mean, that's where the name Hungry Hungry Hooker comes from. Although I don't know if I should change it at this point since now I'm a photographer, but
I'd say stay with it.
I mean, it's
nice.
It's a
point of conversation.
It is a point of conversation, and I feel like it's so strongly branded at this point. It would be hard
for
for
sure.
me to pivot.
It's also a good name, like just witty
Thank
name.
you. I appreciate that.
Did that just pop into your head, or were you like, oh?
Yeah, I think I can't remember how I came up with it,
Right.
but I'm a big fan of alliteration, so, and I just thought it was cheeky. I think that there are ways to approach any industry, and I think that I wanted to be at this really high level, but I also didn't want to take myself too seriously.
Right.
So I think that having a little bit of humor about things and a little bit of cheekiness did well for me in bringing in the kind of clients that I could get along with.
Okay. When we look at food history 10, 20 years from now, this is it. Like we're part of food history forever. So I think that you hold a very special place in that, where I think you're the only one that I've seen that's come from the sex work industry that's been so outward about it and been like, this is my past, whatever. This is what's going on now with me, and embraced it. And, you see companies around the world embracing you. Michelin, James Beard, just they have no problem associating with you. So I think you're breaking that barrier and making it easier for people to come after you and do the same.
I hope so. I mean, I think that I have a lot of systemic privileges, and I think that those things have made it a little bit easier for me to be so out about my past career.
Right.
I don't think that there's anything wrong or shameful about sex work, and I have no no issues with the fact that I used to do that. I'm very grateful for everything that that career gave me, and
Yeah.
I'm also very grateful to be in a different place now. Um, but I feel kind of surprised that so many people were willing to embrace
Mm-hmm.
me. But I do think that there is a little bit of this, like, just put kind of some chutzpah and bravado into things.
Right.
Sometimes if you act like there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, then like other people will be like, oh, like, or like people that might be like a little bit nervous
Mm-hmm.
will see your own confidence
Mm-hmm.
and your lack of shame and steadfastness and that there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing
Right.
and be like, okay. And I think that that has been the case for a lot of things that I think people have kind of just rolled with the punches because I seemed so like, yeah, whatever, it's not a big deal.
Fuck yeah.
So,
What you were saying about going to Cezanne 16 times, there's only really a handful of people who have done that.
yeah, and but you know, most people that are operating at the level that I was within the industry, like many of my friends have also been to, you know, so many of these places so many times, you know.
Right.
So it's I think when we're getting back to the conference that I was speaking at, I was really just talking about how they are both hospitality jobs, and I think that one of the things that I was speaking about at this conference was also the extremely strange and liminal position that you operate in when you are doing that job in those spaces, because you are there pretending to be a guest but as the hired help.
Right.
Like, so everyone that I know within the sex work industry considers themselves part of hospitality and really sees people in the service industry, in restaurants and food and hotels, as our colleagues,
Right.
even if it's a slightly distant thing and obviously different sectors. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if, since you were always worked in the kitchen, I don't know if
Right.
like you have that experience, but if I think if you even just give like very basic regular service
Right.
to like in a restaurant to a sex worker, we are pretty likely to very over tip or like all over the standard. Like we understand what it is like to be in a industry where tipping is a big part of that, and like really wanting to make sure people feel appreciated for the service that they provided.
Right.
And I just know that that is like a big thing with me and all my friends, is making sure that you tip really well.
Right.
Always, you know.
Oh, I just thought of this here. If restaurants get bad reviews, can you get a bad review as a sex worker? And how do you handle bad reviews?
There are review sites.
There are.
Like I would say that most of us feel similarly to them as restaurants feel about Yelp.
Right.
It's the people who are often leaving those reviews without any qualifications to do so are often pretty crass, don't really know what they're talking about, and are potentially endangering your business or your personhood by doing saying the things that they say in them. I know that there's a lot of people who have tried to remove themselves from that sort of review culture, and also I think it's, to me, it's like especially crass when you're having such a personal experience with someone, and that,
Right.
and to have it reviewed just feels shitty, even if it's a good review.
Yeah.
I guess, you know.
Right. Even if it's good, you're still like, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, and I think that I think it's something that I was able to largely avoid in the later years of my career doing that, because I just sort of shifted my focus from one kind of work within the industry to a smaller number of clients that I would see over much longer periods of time and
Right.
repeatedly, and sort of building much stronger relationships with people.
Okay. I think if I was a sex worker, I'd do the how's my driving kind of thing, just like tattoo a fucking phone number so they can call in and talk to my secretary, you know, like time and date, sir. You know, one of those.
My assistant, I had an assistant at that point, and she was really wonderful, and nothing quite like that. But
How do you hire for that? Like, where do you look for assistants?
it was
Websites like Craigslist?
no, it was a personal referral.
Mm. Okay. As managing clients, hey, and
Yeah,
calendar
doing all the
booking them.
admin.
Right.
Admin.
Admin shit.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're doing this kind of work, is it LLC? Is it like are
I think
you
there are many people do it in very many different ways.
right? Okay. Heard that. We won't divulge anymore. Um cool. So, let's take it all the way back. Where were you born?
I was born in Berkeley, California.
Okay, dope. So, upbringing there was free and wild.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think I lived, so I was born in Berkeley and I grew up a little bit all over the place, but I would say like mostly as a child in Benicia.
Mhm.
Um, my parents are both artists, ceramicists. My dad was a art professor in the UC system,
Dope.
and so I got to grow up around a lot of really interesting, cool people for
Yeah,
sure.
that's dope. Um, it seems that way whenever you drive through Berkeley, you can just feel that energy. Like it's very artistic. There's art everywhere, and it's you're in Berkeley. Even if I was like drunken and then awoken there, I'd be like, okay, I'm in Berkeley. I know I'm here.
You're next to the here and there signs.
Exactly, exactly. You're like, oh, here we go. That's cool. So, what were your first interests like? Going to school and things like that. You play any sports and things like that?
I did play sports,
Okay.
but not well. I was pretty
Right.
good at softball.
Softball.
Um, no surprises there. A lot of stereotypes, but
Yeah.
really staying true to that there.
Gives you a routine.
But volleyball, I played for a while. Basketball, not great.
Mm-hmm.
Only really in middle school. Um, honestly, food was always what I loved.
Right.
Always.
Did you grow up eating at restaurants? Know what the
Yes.
restaurant industry was? Did you have aunts that were,
There was a restaurant next door to my parents' house. That
Okay.
was my first job.
All right.
But I grew up sort of. There were a lot of art collectors who were also restaurateurs, so I have a lot of memories as a young child, sort of being, the one small young child, sort of playing under the table at these
Right.
opulent, drunken art dinners,
Hmm.
and all these. It was really fun. I mean, I think that I always really loved food, and I always loved the environment of restaurants. And my mom is an amazing cook, so it's very lucky to. I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I, as much as I should have, but
Right.
she's a really great cook, so I got to grow up eating some really amazing food.
Okay. And then what was your first gig, first job?
I was like an AM prep cook at this place next door to my parents' house.
Okay. What kind of food? We're talking diner kind of thing?
Like diner, but like trying to be a little bit more upscale than that, but
All right.
not really
Gastropub.
Gastropub,
Oh.
but not like the best rendition of
Right.
that.
What year is this?
Ooh, 2001,
2001.
2002, somewhere
Okay.
there.
So we
Yeah.
survived the turn of the
It
century.
was like I want to say it was between 8th and ninth grade.
8th and ninth grade. Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you want to do the restaurant industry for the rest of your life? Were you like, oh, this is something I'm interested in? Or did you have anything that you were like, I need to go to college for this?
I think that when I was growing up, I had a couple different things that I was really interested in, but I really wanted to be a food critic,
Right.
which now I would never in a million years want to do. But
It's a lonely job.
yeah, I've got
Photographers are celebrated. They hang out.
yeah. I mean, I've got some homies that are reviewers, and as a critic, you just have to maintain so much distance between the industry, and I just think it would be very hard for me to do that. When you can't really, if you have to like sort of divorce yourself socially from people in the industry, and
Mm-hmm.
that just seems very very hard.
Kind of counterintuitive, too.
Yeah,
To be like,
yeah.
hospitality, yay, but fuck this, kind of thing.
I mean, I think just like in order to remain impartial and ethical, you can't be like super close homies with anyone in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, that is true. That will definitely come into question.
Yeah.
Because I wonder how Saleho kind of feels about that,
you should ask them to be on the
But
podcast.
does she want? I think I asked. I don't want to say I asked aggressively, and then she's like, "You never got an email, motherfucker."
So I think their pronouns are they and them.
They,
So
them. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No.
I've been told that before is the thing. So apologies. I was at a restaurant recently, and I said, "Hey, miss," and she's like, "You gendering me?" So I don't know how to approach it because first of all, I'm like, I don't know you. Okay. But I have heard that about her. So my bad, my mistake. How do you approach that these days when you make a mistake about it?
I think that I just apologize and try to make sure that I remember the next time.
Remember the next time, right? Damn. I think I'm just going to go they, them for everybody. It just makes life easier.
That's what my husband does. And I think it does make it much easier. For me, I personally... I don't think I have like really strong feelings about my own pronouns. I wouldn't.
Right.
I don't like. I'm fine with they them. I'm fine with she her. I don't care. No one really has called me he him, but it wouldn't bother me either. Like I just don't care. I just don't really see it as.
Well, Mr. Cole, let me be the first.
I like the way that sounds.
Mr. Cole, I like that too. That could be like you could start your own podcast. Be like secret, behind blurry or whatever. Okay, so trajectory of your life, high school. After high school, what'd you do?
Well, I mean, high school was a tumultuous. I think I went to 6 high schools in 4 years.
Jesus.
Really in 3 years because I fucked off my whole junior year.
Yeah.
I had moved back here to Berkeley in Oakland. I was living in punk houses. I was working at a little kind of bougie white people Mexican spot, just as like a little cashier, and also working in the adult industry at that point. Just trying to, trying to pay my rent. So,
how did you first get into that? Did you have a friend who was like, "Oh, hey, you could do this," or did you seek it out?
I think I was just having a really hard time finding jobs as someone who is pretty young, and I didn't have a lot of work history other than that one like AM prep place, I can't recall. I think I just was like trying to think of things, and I think I was just fucking around on Craigslist, and I was looking at the adult services, and I saw like some wanted things, and I was like, I could go clean someone's house naked.
Right. That was like a thing.
Do that, like that's or like I could go pee on some old guy.
Right. Really? Go pee on people. That's pretty legit. Not bad.
I mean,
how much does one charge for that kind of service? I mean,
I wish
with inflation.
I mean, like when I was that old, not enough.
Right.
I'll tell you that.
Not
much.
Enough. That's weird. So, okay. When you think about a pee appointment, are you like, is there like 5 minutes of talk time and then we do the thing and then I leave? Or is it like a walk in, boom? Is it planned beforehand, or are you kind of like, let's see how this goes?
I mean, I think at that point I really didn't have a specific business model down. I was really just looking for like wanted ads, and like I could do that. Like this I could stomach, and so I mean, I think it really depends. I am a talker.
Okay.
So like I love to go and just talk to people and learn a little bit about them. So I think a nice little chat about how your day went is nice before you piss in someone's mouth. But
right, there you go.
I'm sure other people deal with things differently. So.
Right. That's funny. And they're like, no, let me pay you while the pee is in my mouth, or do they rinse? Like, I don't know. You got to work that out beforehand. Okay, so how does this graduate into a full-blown career where you're like, well, fuck doing college or whatever else,
I mean, I think that, I went to college for a little bit.
Right.
I think I'm a pretty intelligent person, but I had a very, very difficult time with the structure of school always.
The rules.
I know you talk a lot about ADHD kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed earlier this year, or last year now. I guess,
oh, okay.
About a year ago.
Yeah.
Which has really changed my life in really positive ways. Like having that diagnosis and having an understanding of why there were some things I just could not make myself do no matter how hard I was trying. And it wasn't that I was lazy. It was just that I have a different brain neurology, than some other people. And I got medicated.
Okay. What are you on?
Helpful. I take extended release Adderall.
Okay.
Um,
And is that every day, daily,
every day.
morning,
Morning. Yeah.
before you go to sleep, or no, just once a
No,
day?
not before I go to sleep.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, I usually just take one right when I wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you is there a window of time? Like, do you feel it wear off at the end of the day? Is there a
It's
crash?
the no. It's the only medication I've ever taken for this, so I
Right.
can't really compare it to other things personally. But I know I have heard people who don't take the extended release version feel more of that come down. For me, I think sometimes at the end of the day, I've always been a person who really in the last few years woke up quite early, but also went to bed really early because I think I was so exhausted by 6 or 7 p.m. from just wearing myself out thinking all day
Right.
that I would go to sleep quite early, and now I can stay up to a very reasonable 10 or 11.
Okay. I see.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really feel it wear off. I think that maybe I just noticed that I'm not quite as, getting a little bit more scatterbrained in the evening.
How long you been taking it?
I think pretty immediately after I got my diagnosis.
So about a year and some change now.
Yeah. It'll be, I think, close to a year.
Is there any
Yeah.
long-term effects that you're seeing with using the Adderall?
I mean, I haven't had any negative effects. It was really interesting. It was something that I had suspected based on a therapist telling me that I probably had ADHD, that I probably needed to go get a diagnosis, but I was nervous about the idea of medication. I have very high anxiety, and I was like, oh, well, I can't imagine an upper being great for that. Just everything I've read sounds awful about that. But when I took it, I was like, oh no, it has the opposite effect on me. I just feel extremely calm and like very serene, and I can focus on my train of thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just doing some more research on ADHD, and they say there's this symptom that you have where you don't keep up with friendships, and then like time will go by, and then
I think what it's called is it has to do with object permanence.
okay, what is this?
So for me, if something is not right in front of my face, it doesn't exist. If I put a spice back in the cabinet and it's not, on my little next to my cutting board of my normal like 5 things that I'll use,
Right.
doesn't exist. Then I'll clean out the cabinet, 6 months later in some big whirlwind where I pull my whole kitchen apart, and then I'm like, oh, I totally forgot about this. So I think for me, I also have that where I will kind of let friendships drop off, not on purpose or not because I love that person any less, but I'm very capable of letting time pass and then just picking up right where we left off.
Right.
Like, and for some people that's great. And I think a lot of the people in my life also kind of deal with things that way where, I have a lot of friends who we won't talk for a couple of years and then we'll be like, hey, we should go on vacation together.
Right.
And everything's fine.
They're like everything's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. I have that relationship with some of my family members too.
Yeah.
Kind of a crazy world, the ADHD world. What were some of the immediate things that you noticed? Or like, oh my God, this is better.
I mean, I think that for me, I can really listen to people more. I think that one of the problems with school was if I didn't see something as super interesting, I just was like, I have better things to do with my time. So I think I have a lot more ability to really listen to people and their stories, even if something isn't really capturing my attention. I can really sit down and force myself to do some work that I would have had a really hard time doing previously. Like I had to hire an assistant in my last job to do all that admin work because I just could not force myself to do it. My business was hurting, and it was like I made way more money paying someone a decent wage to be able to like go through all my emails, screen all of my clients, book all my appointments, so that really streamlined the process for me. But now I can actually force myself to sit down and like write all these emails and do all this stuff instead of just the fun parts for me, which is showing up, shooting, editing,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Have you had any time that you haven't been on it since you've been on it? Like a week or two, or maybe like a weekend where you forgot it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I feel like if I'm not medicating and really, I think different people have different analogies for what their brain is like. For me, I always think of it as like a pinball machine,
Right.
you know? And I think that I will make several jumps in my head without communicating them in conversation. And sometimes, like, I'll just jump around. And my husband will be like, "What? Where did that come from? We were just
Mm-hmm.
talking about this." And I'm like, "Oh, well, this to this, this to this." You know, it's, I think sometimes I just have to be able to slow things down just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear that. I can hear that. Um, when did you know that sex work was going to be your main breadwinning thing? Like, how many years in did it take for you to be like, okay, this is like my full time? I don't have to do anything else.
I think I was probably like dabbling in it and just like kind of not really like just every once in a while. And
Mm-hmm.
probably about 5 years maybe.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also working some restaurant jobs at the same time
Mm-hmm.
and cafes and stuff like that.
Right. And then as you decide to take this on, do you have any coworkers? Is there any like, female counterparts that are, going with you and doing the same thing or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like any industry. You have
Right.
colleagues, you got friends. Some people are working independently,
Mm-hmm.
the private chefs, if you will.
Right.
And then there are some people who are, working in a more organized fashion, in houses and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
I was always working independently.
Okay. Is there a preference? Is one better than the other?
I
Or
think
is
that
it
there are
both?
pros and cons to each kind of work, and it
Right.
really just depends on what works best for you.
Okay. And how long did you last doing it seriously?
A long time.
Your tenure? Like 10 years?
Decade, yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did
more,
at any
more than that, like full time? Yeah, I think about a decade, a little bit more.
Yeah. Did at any point in that time did you consider not doing it anymore?
I was thinking about that. Like, I was starting to think about what's the next thing gonna be for me.
Mm-hmm.
Probably around the time that I turned 30. 30,
Okay.
31. I was like, there is a lot of people who do this job successfully for a very long time. But for me, I think I wanted something with a little bit more stability, and where in my mind I was going to like maybe travel a little bit less because there was so much travel, which I think is one of those things that sounds really sexy to people who don't travel all the time for work. But I just wanted to be able to be at home for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of thinking about what that might be, but I hadn't really landed on anything, and the pandemic sort of forced my hand.
Right. So pandemic happens. What do you do?
I mean, I think I was in the right place at the right time around the right people.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was out of a job, as a lot of us were, pretty immediately.
Right.
There was no safe way for me to work. Things were all shut down. A lot of my work had been involving traveling to other cities, and that just wasn't a thing that could happen anymore.
Yeah.
So I kind of put all of my like busy inside my brain energy into trying to figure out what I could do that was more community-based work. So the way that I was trying to do that was I made a list of all the pop-ups that were happening. I was just trying to keep that updated during the pandemic and have little blurbs about people and, put it on my Instagram because I already had like a fairly good Instagram following just from, I don't know, just my food exploits, I guess.
Right.
And
Traveling and taking pictures.
Well, no, just with my iPhone. I'd never touched a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I really was just I had Hungry Hungry Hooker as like a branding mechanism for working in the adult industry
Mm-hmm.
and trying to, I guess, market myself to the kind of clients who wanted to take me out to eat at the places that I wanted to eat on their dime.
Right.
So,
It's a good way to do it. Going to a place 16 times like a saison, uh, there's obviously meals that are better than others during that time. Um, do you get sick of it? Like by the 10th time, are you like, oh, and now that this is coming, like you kind of know what the cadence is, or does that place keep refreshing itself?
I mean, I think it really depends on the place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are some places that, um, you know, if you're going back to a place like 3 times in a season, then you're probably having close to the same menu most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a little like, I don't know, I'd like to try something new, you know, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, I don't know, I think it just depends on the restaurant. There's menus that I've eaten that I was like, I could eat that another 3 times and be really happy.
Right.
And then there's other things where I was like, that's great, but I could, you know, I could try something else next time. And then there are meals that have been not good, you know. So.
And you're like, probably can't say the name of those places.
I'll tell you after the
yeah.
the air's off.
No, but will you say this? Were they Michelin starred?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would say that maybe the worst meal I've ever had in my life,
Mm-hmm.
or at least the meal that I left just feeling the angriest about, was there was one at a 3 Michelin star place and one at a 2 Michelin star place.
Right. Where you're like, not worth the money, not worth the stars, none of this.
One of them was a meal that I was like left so angry that I had eaten this meal for free.
Yeah. You're like
You know?
upset. You're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
And that is like, yeah.
Did you go back? Have you been back to that place since?
No, and it's not around anymore. So
Okay. Okay. Got you. That's probably why it's not around anymore. Crazy. Okay. That kind of took me. I'm just like now thinking of you at this restaurant. Having
it's
this
not Meadowood.
No. I know that. I know that. I
Love
mean,
that place.
look, when you worked at Meadowood, I worked at Meadowood. There would be people would be pissed off, like, "Oh, that wasn't good, and doesn't taste good, and this was bland." It's like, okay, cool. You know, you can't really take everyone's. Now, if you have 45 people that are saying, "Okay, now this is salty," then you might, that's what you check.
This was a meal where there was minimally 3 courses, where the person I was with's food was not salted at all, and then mine was like double seasoned. Like
Ooh.
to be fair, it was a 4-hands dinner, so I know that
Right.
those can be like really challenging. But this was also this is a restaurant that was very well loved.
Right.
A lot of people really loved, and I had
The
one
worst time.
mediocre meal there and 2 awful meals there. So
Right. So you gave it its due.
I really, if I have a bad meal somewhere, and I know a lot of people that really like it, like we all have bad nights,
Mhm.
that's,
Yeah.
I'm not ever going to write a place off based on one meal. But I think not only was the food awful, but it was a place where I just felt really shitty when I left. I was like, I hated the service, like just like really misogynist,
Mm-hmm.
like sexist bullshit. And like, yeah, I mean, like, and then I think I had brought a really, really nice bottle of wine to this dinner, and then ordered another one off the list. And there was someone that I knew that was eating there that night,
Yeah.
and I sent them a couple glasses of wine, one from each of these bottles, and they didn't tell this person that it was from me. Like,
Oh, wow.
and he was like, "Oh, they never told me. I just assumed it was like from the restaurant," And I thought that was really shitty.
Yeah.
And it was something where like the psalm was, I was counting the seconds in between when he would give me eye contact and my date eye contact.
Right.
And even though I had brought in a bottle of wine, I was ordering, and I had the wine list. Like, he just wouldn't look at me. He kept like, this was like a dinner that I was supposed to go to with a client, like a really, really wonderful client of mine who had a business thing come up and wasn't able to make it. And he's like, "Oh, you should just take your husband." So we went, and like, it was like my husband's like air traffic controlling, trying
Yeah.
to get this. I mean, he's like, I don't know how she wants the wine, what temperature she wants it. Just her wine, like I don't know what wine I want to order. She's got the list.
Right.
Like, like it was such a weird experience.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Andrew Chang is the person that they didn't tell the wine was from me. And I checked into them later. I was like, "What's up? Was the wine good?" And he's
Yeah.
like, "I don't. No one ever told me that was from you. I didn't know where it came from."
Son of a bitch. Andrew Chang gets a lot of hate out there. People hate on him.
I don't know. I only know him like a little bit in person and through the internet, and my experiences with him have always been very pleasant.
Yeah, very positive
Yeah.
guy. I mean, at the end of the day, he eats everywhere.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? He's eating more places than you. Like all the people that are
I
mad.
trust his judgment
Exactly.
on food, and
All those people that are mad out there, just know he's eating.
What are
more
people hating
places
on
than
Andrew Chang for?
I know. I'm like, he's fucking harmless. He's not doing anything. He's just fucking enjoying himself. On his caption today, on the message. What do you think about that? The message, the DM thing above.
Oh, I honestly,
Little
I
message
don't even know
thing
what it
there.
is. What, like, I saw that.
Like
I
a
keep thinking,
status?
what is going on there? I've just kind of ignored it. And just
Yeah,
been-
to start conversations.
I don't
I
like
guess.
change.
Yeah, me either. Either. What do you like nowadays? Are you on Instagram still? Are you a TikTok person or YouTube?
I'm on Instagram. I feel like I probably should be figuring out the TikTok things.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems really challenging. I mean, I think the problem with TikTok is if you're going to hire someone to, so I also have a couple of restaurants where I'll do a little bit of like social media work for them
Yeah.
because it's nice to have, a monthly paycheck and
Mhm.
we love that. So, but with TikTok, I think the problem is you really need like a dedicated TikTok person because not only do you need to be making the content, you need to be like really on TikTok watching things to understand what's trending, what sounds you need to use to trend, what hashtags are trending at this very moment. And also I think that it probably will have to eventually because it is such a massive platform, but I think there is still quite a lot of resistance within the dining world to using TikTok because we all think it's fucking dumb.
Yeah.
And I do,
Right.
like, although I do find it entertaining at times, but I'm still struggling with how to navigate that space for fine dining marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't really think of a way. I mean, or if you were able to do it in a way that is beautiful, it would be so cost intensive that it's not even really worth doing, I don't think.
Okay. Crazy.
Like, you're really gonna like hire someone to make incredibly cinematic, reels and TikToks.
Yeah.
Like the videography is really expensive. I mean, it's interesting. My husband's really pretty amazing videographer, and he
Is he doing drones?
Yeah.
He does drones.
Mm-hmm.
Today I saw something online. It was drone races. It's fucking crazy. It's like it's a dark, I guess track, but they're just like doing all kinds of flips and going all everywhere and shit.
I mean, his focus is more like, it's more like very like cinematic, beautiful.
Right.
Going over the vineyards and the grapes and,
Mm-hmm.
coming in over the gorgeous hotel, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's really more like supplemental to all of his beautiful detail work and that kind of stuff. But, I think he taught me how to do photography.
Mm-hmm.
And he's really getting into videography and doing a great job with that. But God damn, is it a lot more equipment, and that shit is expensive. Like videography equipment is crazy, and
Damn right.
And it is a lot. You're having to think about a lot more than you are. I mean, I feel like with photography, there's a lot of things you're having to consider with all the shoots and all of the different camera settings, and lighting, and all this kind of things. Having to add in audio and motion to that is it's a lot.
Yeah, I know. When I went to video, I thought audio was hard. And then doing the video part of it, I'm like, what camera do I get?
Yeah.
What? Luckily I have a good setup. I got the YOLO box right here. Nobody knows about this. I was like proud of myself. I'm like, bring this up to Guitar Center or whatever. I'm like, hey, my YOLO box. And they're like, we don't know what that is. I'm like, I'm above Guitar Center. I'm further into the future than them.
I actually don't know what this is. You're gonna have to explain this to me at some
Oh,
point.
it's a cool thing. Here, I'll explain. This is what all the podcasts are filmed on. And you can basically like plug your computer into it, and there's all the different camera angles
Okay.
right there, side by side.
Fancy.
Boom. But this is, I just realized that I've been doing this. You see that right there? So, yeah, part of your podcast, just so you know, has my hand right here.
No one
doing
needs
this
to see
you.
this old
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
You know?
Right. But it just helps you stream on 3 different platforms at once.
Okay.
So you don't have to have like 5 different computers. I'm doing a live show now every Monday at 10.
I listened to it because
yeah.
they're recorded though.
Yeah, they're recorded after. Yeah,
Yeah.
but we're live. You can call in, shout out restaurants, whatever you want, talk shit. And for doing that, I got this thing. But I've never been really excited about stuff before like this, because usually it's like, oh, I got a new knife, or like my new peeler. And now I'm like, my new YOLO box. And people are like, what the fuck is that, Dave? And I'm like, I don't, just, don't worry about it. But have you ever thought about starting a podcast?
I have thought about starting a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. One of my friends and I were talking about it sort of right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then we just never really got it off.
What would it be about?
Food, restaurants. I mean, you're doing it better than we would have done it, so we don't need to do it now because you got.
Oh, it's all good. I'm looking
yeah.
for, I want a podcast empire. I want to be doing podcasts here every day.
Okay.
So if anybody out there wants to start a podcast and doesn't know the first thing about it, I'll produce it for you, rent the equipment, get yourself a nice canvas so you can switch this one out.
Very nice.
And then, because you can do that here. Boom. There you go.
I feel like you have already had most of the people that I would.
There you go. Right?
Anyway.
Yeah. It's like,
and you probably have better questions to ask them as well.
now, do you think this, like, if Joseph Weaver does a restaurant that you've done, is it like, are you trying to like outdo Joseph Weaver? No shade to Joseph Weaver, but like, do you think like that? Okay, you're like, all right, I saw that motherfucker Trox's photos. Like, watch this, son. You know what I mean?
I don't really think of it like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that for me, maybe because I grew up in a household of artists and there was so much collaboration with other artists that they were friends with, and so many. My parents are specifically in like modernist ceramics, and it was really wonderful and cool seeing the way that everyone inspired each other and the different takes on how you would shoot something.
Right.
And I think I often feel really inspired by other people's work, even if it's very, very different than mine.
Right.
We all have our own styles.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like I can usually look at a Trox photo or a Joseph Weaver photo or a Jim Sullivan photo or an Emma Morris photo or a Kelly photo. I know whose photos they are, and I love all of their styles. I think that there's like,
Right.
Kelly and Emma in particular,
Mhm.
I really think are incredible photographers.
There's a lot of love in between you guys, man. Like there's just a lot of like cohesion in that community that I see.
I mean, like
Never
I would
any
like
hate,
to think
never
that
any shade.
I think that there can be a lot of weird competition.
Yeah.
But with the people that I know, I feel lucky to be friendly with people who are pretty great.
Right.
know?
So as a food photographer coming into these restaurants, what were the first restaurant that you shot? What was the first restaurant that hired you?
Oh, the Comey. It was
Comey.
the first restaurant that I ever. I mean, like I was when I was learning how to do photography. And
Yeah.
I think I just asked. Mark was there, and I was like, they were doing the to-go meals, and I was like, oh, you think maybe I could come in and just fuck around with the camera? And Colin came with me a few times, was teaching me how to do some things on the big professional camera, because I'd always just, before learning photography, I was always just doing stuff on an iPhone. I'd never touched anything with like all the different settings and whatnot.
Right.
And they were really wonderful. They let me come every week and do a little meal trade for while they were doing the to-go meals that were wonderful. Really missed those.
Yeah.
The lighting in there is beautiful, and it was really great. And then later on, then I think they hired us to do some photos of their outside, Colin and I together, when they were doing the outside stuff. And
Mhm.
that's the first place I ever stepped inside to take photos. I think the first people that ever paid me was the Morris.
The Morris.
Yeah.
How did they look for you? How did they find you and
Well, I
say?
mean, I already knew them, so
Right.
like, I mean, I think they got their patio and they were like, you want to, you want to come take some photos of the outdoor area?
Yeah. Very cool.
So
So
shout out Paul, shout out the Morris, shout out Vanessa.
yeah, shout them out, giving you a start. And then from there, how did you start building the portfolio? Just other restaurants?
I mean, I think I started doing a lot of what I started doing was really trying to offer like free shoots or trade shoots for food at first to younger chefs and people doing pop-ups. I mean, I think that's really what helped me get my start. Was that there were so many people that were laid off, and it was all part of this pop-up list. And I was like doing this thing where I'd be like, okay, I'll come take some photos of your food. I'll promote it on my platforms, and I've got this list that I have up on my website.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there was that. I just got a lot of practice that way, and then I think by the time that restaurants started reopening, I was lucky enough that I had become skilled enough to be at a professional enough level to start charging.
Right. Okay. And how many restaurants are you shooting like in 1 month?
It really depends on the month. I mean, I would say, yeah, it really depends on the month. I mean, I'm trying to think. I think since like the end of last month, I've done 4 shoots.
And is a shoot typically 1 day, 3 days? Like, what does a hungry hooker need? How many days?
I mean, I think it really depends on what you're shooting.
Okay.
I would say typical opening photos for a restaurant, full day. If they've got a huge menu, maybe 2.
Okay.
But generally, it's like 1 long day.
Turnaround time of?
I mean, my turnaround time that I like to give is 2 weeks.
Right.
But if someone really needs photos faster, I can, really put it to the grind and get them out. But I like to take the time to be able to edit and then go back and look and, having a little space in between it. And
do you show your husband the pictures before you give them to the restaurant, or do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the really great things about being in a relationship and doing a lot of business with my husband is I have a second set of eyes that I trust, and same for him. Like it is really wonderful to have someone else in that industry that you can really show each other your work and critique and say, well, I like this, but I think that this could be a little bit different. Or, we have different ways of looking at photos. And both of us have things where in our editing process, I'll see things he won't and vice versa. And we do a lot of work together as well. I mean, we do a lot of event work where we're both shooting.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Where would you like to take this? Like, what you're doing now is fucking awesome, but do you want to grow into anything else? Is this what you want to do?
I really love what I'm doing. I think that I'd like to, I'm doing a little bit more commercial work now, like really for product and stuff like that for larger companies. And that is really wonderful. I've worked with some companies that I really love and really like super believe in their product, and that's been really fun. And also commercial work tends to pay a little bit better than restaurant work. The licensing fees are done a little bit differently if you are doing, like marketing product photos versus for a restaurant. So I think being able to do a little bit more of that so I can do the restaurant photography that I love, is great. And then I think that my goal is I really want to get into doing cookbooks. I haven't done any yet. And I think that I really thrive when I get to know people and really get to build on that relationship. As artists, we're kind of like riffing together, the chef and the photographer.
Right.
And for me, that's a really special collaboration. And I think that I feel very privileged and I really appreciate the trust that chefs have in me um, when they choose me to photograph their food and sort of represent that in that medium.
Mm-hmm.
It's to translate what that dish should be like to the viewer when they can't actually taste it themselves or haven't been in to do that yet.
Right.
And I really appreciate that trust, and I really love being able to build on those relationships and gain deeper relationships with people. So I think that some of my best work is always for people that I've gotten to work with before, and we're really dialing in what they want to show as their vision, and then also trusting me to be able to show that vision.
Right. Other than product shoots or restaurants, is there something else that you'd like to shoot, like scenery or people?
I mean, I love shooting people at this
Right.
point. I love doing street photography, although I have to say I don't do it very much. I had a great time in Europe doing it, but frankly, I just don't feel safe walking around the city with my camera.
Yeah.
There are just too many jackings. I mean, all the
We're
photographers.
talking just
group-
London?
Huh?
London?
No, this is in Slovenia and in Italy.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I mean, I had a great time doing that. That was really
Mm-hmm.
amazing. But yeah, here it's just like all the photographers' Facebook groups and that kind of stuff. It's just like day after day after day, and like news crews are out with like armed guards, and there's like, I mean, it's like it is like a very intense, like
It's getting crazy out
yeah,
there, huh?
it's like pretty intense. You know, it probably depends where you're at. You know, I've done a few, like, I'm not really someone who does like weddings or like that kind of stuff, but I've done a few engagement shoots and weddings for people that I know and care about, and they're all industry people, you know. So, but man, it's very stressful having to be out there at Land's End or wherever shooting photos in like a San Francisco beautiful tourist destination where these things are just happening daily, you know.
Do you think that you could teach someone or have like a protege or a student? Is that something that you'd be into or want?
I feel like I have a hard time communicating photographic concepts to people. Like the way that I communicate, I'm really hands-on. It would be, I think I would have a hard time. It's one of those things where I think that a lot of people who are looking to diversify their stream of income as photographers end up doing a lot of, like online courses and stuff that they teach. And I think that those things are amazing. I've learned a lot, especially about the business side of photography, from taking a couple of classes like that, you know, people that I knew or followed were like, oh, I like, you know, put together this like e-course. And, you know, I learned a lot about contracts and how to do business successfully and licensing and all of those things that are very important to know about that I didn't know shit about before. But I don't think I would be very good at doing something like that. I wish that I was. I mean, I get really excited when, you know, I've had friends who are photographers where they're trying to figure out something and I'm like, oh, that's something I know how to do. And I can like, let me show you, you know, or like vice versa. I think that, I wish there was more collaboration and sharing in that way. I really enjoy that kind of artistic back and forth, but I think there is not enough of it. And I think that because it is a small industry, I do think that there is like a little bit of competitiveness that sometimes really rubs me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see that article about Noma closing?
I did.
Okay. What did you think about that and the backlash that ensued?
I think that are you familiar with the sort of like Instagram educator, The Collectress?
Yeah, I saw.
I think she has a pretty
good take on it.
Take on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's a really, really smart person. And
Yeah, she does nail it.
There are so many times where I have like concepts that are sort of like floating around in my brain, and I'm like things I would never really understand quite how to articulate, and I'm like,
she figures
great,
out how
I
to
can
do it.
just send her video to someone and be like, this is what I think. like she's just so much better at talking about all those things than I am. I'm not very eloquent in that way, you know.
I hear you.
But yeah, I love her content.
Right. Does that ever play into your decision about going to a restaurant? Like if you've heard that there's some abuse there, are you going there?
Yeah,
Or
I
are you
mean,
like,
there's
fuck that
definitely
place?
there are. Yeah, I definitely don't want to. There are places that I don't go
Right.
because I've heard things that I think are really unsettling
Mm-hmm.
about the chef or the owner or you know whatever.
Whoever. Yeah.
Um, and there are also places that there are time periods I haven't gone to a restaurant, and then I know that the team has changed.
Yeah.
I like the team now, and and places I'll go back to due to changes.
Mm-hmm. That's very important. That's why I think when people are like, "Oh, Rene Redzepi, fuck him, whatever," I'm like, you guys played into it. You guys gave him exactly what he wanted, whether it was negative or positive. Like Elon Musk, fucking everyone.
I mean, yeah, I think it's
You
a
know?
marketing move.
Yeah, and
It's
he won. He won.
yeah.
I was like, good for him, bro.
Yeah.
Whatever, do what you gotta do,
And I don't know,
man.
maybe he is very sincere and all of that. And,
Yeah,
it's maybe I'm just too jaded. But
yeah.
I mean, like
I don't.
I've never been there. I've always wanted to go, but never
Yeah,
had the
I've always wanted
chance.
to go, never been. I
Um,
mean,
and there have been really incredible chefs that have gone all over the world to start their own things
right.
after being in that sort of incubator.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, he's done amazing things for the food world,
Yeah,
but
he has.
yeah,
My thing is like with the whole stagiaire thing, free work. I'm like, most of that shit is voluntary. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
yeah, you get treated bad, whatever. I'm not advocating for that, but the fact is, like, you agree to work for free, however long it takes. And I remember being a stagiaire who wanted to work 16 hours, and I didn't look at it as like, oh man, I have to work all these hours. It's like, I want to be here. So that's what I don't understand. I'm like, you can't look back at that time and be like, oh God, like they took advantage of me. I
yeah. I
don't know.
mean, I think that, but I think people should be paid for their labor, and I think that
Right.
you know,
It happens now. You get paid for stages now.
yeah. And I think that there are things that I've done when I was younger that maybe I didn't have enough knowledge or context to uh to things that I felt okay about in that moment that like
Right.
later
It's a
on
good
I'm
way to
like
look at it.
that power dynamic was fucked up
Mm-hmm.
or like
Like I was fucked up for liking that kind of thing.
well that's you. I mean, you can make those own decisions for yourself. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't feel bad
Mm-hmm.
about that now, then fucking great.
Yeah.
Like I think that that is a personal decision to make for people. I think that one of the things that I have and tell me if you think my opinion on this is wrong, but it's something that I've talked about with a lot of friends and that I've heard other people in the industry say is that at these very specific style of restaurants where you're staging at, um, it creates some elitism in that
Mm-hmm.
you really probably have to be a person who has either has gone to culinary school or not a lot of people can afford to spend 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long you're I mean, I don't
No, yeah.
like
That's why I could never do it.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you got to have family or whoever who
We'll
can
hook it up for you.
be
Yeah.
cool with paying your rent for a while, or
100.
like a homies that's gonna
100.
let you like crash on their couch for
Mm-hmm.
that long, or like so I think that and I've never staged anywhere, so I have no
Right.
idea what that's quite like, but it I have seen sort of some of the staging folks in restaurants that my husband worked in before we were both doing full-time photography and for him videography, and it definitely seemed like people for whom they people who could afford to not have to pay rent for a while.
Right.
And I think that that leads to a lack of influx of a lot of other potentially really talented, driven people who didn't get that opportunity because they could not financially afford to be there
Right.
doing work for someone for free.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Do you think that if the tables were turned, that person that originally didn't have that privilege would take that privilege. You know, I think everybody in a position of privilege, like, it's almost like not their fault. Like, it's not your fault when you're born into a rich family, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like,
like
I say all of these things as someone who, you know, my parents were professors and pretty successful artists, and like, you know, there certainly wasn't any like worrying about where the next meal was going to come from in my family.
right.
You know, I probably am a person who, if I had, you know, gone into cooking in a really serious way, could have afforded to, you know, hit my mom up for like, you know, a month of rent or whatever.
Right,
I really
right.
needed it to be like, this is really going to help me get ahead in my career,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I like how you said that, because that's exactly how the chefs say it. Like, this is going to help me.
But, you know, I think that I just know so many people for whom that would not have been an option, who very much would have deserved to be there.
Definitely.
You know?
No, 100.
And you know, I think about, you know, if stages had already been paid, like, how many amazing, cool-ass restaurants we could have that maybe we didn't, because people didn't get those opportunities, so they weren't in the place to know people, so they didn't, you know, it's, I think a lot of jobs, I think photography, I think restaurants, it's kind of a combination between your talent, your drive, and it's always going to be about who you know and those connections that you make. Those things are really important, you know?
How can you do it? Yeah, it's crazy shit. I know, I mean, I worked at places where people, I knew this kid who came to stage at Meadowood, and he lived in a tent in the woods for like 30 days.
Yeah,
you
that's
know what I mean?
drive. Yeah,
Yeah, because he's like, this is the only way that I can afford to do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he just did what he did. I mean, he never smelled bad, so I was like, oh, I guess this is, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Where the fuck were we? We traveled a long distance there, away from the stratosphere of your life.
I mean, you know.
God, we got all philosophical. Fucking, where's the last? Oh, I saw you went to Palmette recently.
Yeah.
That place is fucking delicious.
I love it there.
That K&J Orchard shit is so good.
And Booney's just the best.
Yeah.
She's rad.
Yeah. Have you done any work for them?
I haven't.
Okay.
I just love the restaurant. Let's go in there and eat.
Is there any, I've seen you've been going all over the place. Any places in Oakland that aren't talked about really by Eater or anything else that you're frequenting that people should know about?
Gosh, I mean, I feel like
you just did a chicken article, some chicken research, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just like, I just put up a little Instagram post.
Report
of
your
my
findings, chef,
chickens.
because I love chicken out here.
Okay, well let me pull out. Can I pull out the phone?
Yeah, for fuck yeah. No rush here. We're good.
Let's see.
Sucio.
But I mean, I think that chicken is one of those things that is like, I'm never like, ugh, I gotta order the chicken at a restaurant.
Right.
I feel like chicken is often just done so shittily at places. It's really easy to fuck up.
I like the roasted chicken at the supermarket.
Yeah.
Usually that's done pretty well. The Whole Foods one.
So the ones that I put down here were, I think Angler's got a pretty good chicken. That's the photo.
Okay.
That I have in it. Zuni, a classic, always. So the kind of like ones that I think are less talked about, I'm sure people in the food community know, but Michos makes incredible chicken. Do you know those guys? Oh, you gotta go. Yeah, they've got a pop-up. I think it's at Hidden Cafe. I think it's on Fridays. It used to be known as Broke Ass Cooks, and then kind of there was a
I think like I heard of Broke Ass Cooks a little bit, but then
I mean, truly phenomenal food. I really love their food. But they've got a really incredible Peruvian chicken that they do, and occasionally they'll do like a jerk chicken that's like the whole meal that's really amazing.
Yeah.
Long Branch in Berkeley has a great roast chicken, or roast grilled kind of half chicken.
Yeah.
I really like. It's it's a gastropub.
Yeah. You say Long Branch?
Yeah, but their chicken is, I think, really hitting high above what I would have expected. I really like that chicken quite a lot.
Okay.
Karaku in Berkeley has a really great yuzu chicken udon right now.
Okay.
Big fan of that. Perfect for the cold weather. Kin-Cow's fish sauce wings. Fantastic.
Those are
And
damn good.
they're going to open again for lunch really soon. And,
Oh, are they?
There's a chicken sandwich situation there.
Really?
That I am big fan of.
Okay. I love their pork belly.
Yeah, pork
That
belly.
stewed pork belly in the little crock pot.
Yeah.
I love that shit.
Taking some good photos of that pork belly.
Yeah.
It's that sheen. Little
Yeah, it's got a
backlighting.
lovely lacquer.
It's a sexy
Got a
pork
good
belly.
lacquer, you know? Damn.
So yeah, those are my top ones. And if on the comments, there's a lot of people putting their favorites.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Do you like that, being able to start conversations on social media?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think it's fun to talk about food and what's going on. It's really delicious, and I am honored that people think that I'm an authority enough to care about my opinion at all.
Right. What happens? Do you have more than 10,000 followers, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What happens after that? Because that, as a creator, that seems to be like what Instagram holds over your head. Like, you can do all these things with over 10,000 followers. And
well, I mean, I think it changed a little bit because it used to be you could only put links in your stories if you had more than 10,000 followers,
Right,
but that's not the
right.
case anymore. I mean, I think for me, I've been really lucky that I've had all this great growth. And I'm not gonna lie, I think that I think I'm a pretty great photographer, but also, I think it's helpful that I have a large platform that people are like, oh, well, also my restaurant will get posted about, and a lot of people will see it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think that that's helpful. I think
Right.
that is the truth with food writing, with a lot of other things, is publications and businesses are considering what your reach is and how that reach is going to be able to help them.
Right. Was that all organic, or did you pay for
All
some
organic.
advertising?
All organic.
All organic. What did you? When did it pop off? Was it like overnight, or was it like? Was there a year that it was really like, wow?
I mean, I think that I got quite a lot of growth. I mean, I already had less than 10,000 followers, like kind of at the start of the pandemic, but not maybe like seven or eight probably before the pandemic. But I think with this, when I started that pop-up list, I think like a lot of people started paying more attention because there was some cool information they could get. And there was also some articles written, and Saleho did an interview with me, and then I've had a few other sort of publication interview type things. So I feel lucky that people give a shit or think that what I'm doing is interesting.
Right.
So I'm just doing what I love.
Yeah.
So,
Did you ever think that you would be a food photographer?
no, never in a million years. If I'm perfectly honest, my husband slightly bullied me into like picking up a real camera. He was like, you are like doing really cool things, and you just cannot do this with an iPhone camera. It hurts me to see this. And he's a really incredible photographer, and I feel lucky that he taught me the things that he did. Yeah.
He is a light thief on Instagram,
Yeah,
correct?
it's light_thief.
Right.
He is really bad at marketing himself, which is the only reason that you don't know who he is. But he's really, I don't just say that because I love him. He's a really incredible photographer.
How long has he been in the photography game?
He's one of those people who absolutely could have been full-time professional photographer more than 10 years ago, but he's a sensitive artist soul, and he he's always one of those people who he's like, I don't want to give up control of my art by having to have it be paid for by clients and do what they want, like he was always really really into the art of it. And he worked in restaurants for a long time concurrently and sort of did half and half, and he would work in restaurants and save money for a year, and then he'd take off on like a real cheap 6-month backpacking and photography trip. And he just sort of went back and forth, and now we're in our 30s, and he's doing it full time because he's just like, your body cannot take working service forever.
Yeah, it can't. It's a young person's game.
It's a young man's game. Yeah.
How long you been married?
We we celebrated, I think, our 3-year anniversary this
Dope.
past September. We've been together for 5.
How'd you meet him?
We met because we lived in apartments across the hall in the same building that we're still in.
Oh, okay.
So,
Got it.
so we've known each other for like 15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So little by little.
Yeah.
Was there ever any inkling when you first met him that there was kind of some interest there?
No, when we got together, it was a wild surprise to both of us, but to absolutely none of our friends.
That's usually what happens.
Yeah.
Everyone calls it before you do, and you're
Yeah.
like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Then it just flips.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay. Big wedding or just city hall?
No, it was
chilling.
We did it in my mom's backyard. We
Mhm.
were like, we are going to spend the least amount of money we possibly can. We'd so much rather like spend money going somewhere cool.
Yeah.
It was actually I don't want to brag, but it is the most fun wedding I've ever been to, and I have never heard another person say that about their own wedding.
No. Weddings are usually very stressful.
It was like 35 people. Some of my really good friends and I made all the food. I don't know. Do you know Mike from Edith's Pies?
No.
You gotta have him on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
He's from here. He's Edith's Pies open up their brick and mortar really soon.
Where? In Oakland?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
dope. Okay.
He's a real cool ass dude, and he's been a very good friend of mine since I was 14. We were little punk rock kids, working Gilman security together. But he helped me, came over and a couple friends, and we made all the food. We just did barbecue. I've got a pretty good rib recipe, if I do say so myself. We did a little different because we had to sous vide them first, and then Chef Christina from Hilda and Jesse came and finished them day of, and our friend Max, who was the beverage director of the LA Gracias Madre, and now he's opened up a new place with some people, Mirate.
Mm-hmm.
Mirate, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Is
that in LA?
Mirate? Yes, it's in
Mirate.
LA. Mirate.
Okay.
Sorry to everyone.
Got you. I didn't even know that was Spanish when you first said it.
Yes, I'm the worst. Sorry.
Mirate.
Val from California got on me about that too. We went to the friends and family for it because we were all down in LA, and I kept telling him, I was like, "What are you saying?"
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm so sorry."
Oh my god.
But he batched a bunch of cocktails and made the cocktails. His name's Max. Really incredible cocktail wizard, and agave goblin. But yeah, and we I don't know. I got just disposable plates off Amazon and fucking, I don't know. I had I had a bunch of credit left over from Amazon credit from deposits I took in former profession, and so we just ordered shit off of Amazon, and the only thing we really had to do was rent some tables and chairs.
Yeah.
It was 35 people. It was small,
Seems like a fun time.
Yeah, everyone just partied and good drinks, good wine.
Yeah.
We just, we said no one needs to bring gifts.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to do something, bring a bottle of, wine or booze to share, or drop a couple bucks in our honeymoon fund.
Yeah.
Just casual. We just wanted to be a fun backyard hangout.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just cannot in any world imagine spending what some people spend on weddings. It just seems so asinine to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you go for your honeymoon?
Oaxaca.
Oh, where exactly?
Well, I guess we went to Mexico City first and then to Oaxaca. And we were staying pretty central in Oaxaca, in the city, and just going around eating. It's mostly eating and exploring.
Yeah, that's where they have the actual Mexican food, because the cuisine is very mixed in Mexico City. It's very fusiony.
Yeah,
there's a lot of sushi, and
I had some great food in Mexico City, but I mean the food in Oaxaca was bonkers.
Oh,
it
for
was
sure.
So incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really like a lot of the I really love the chicatanas and
right.
the little flying ants. I think are really delicious, and a lot of the I like a lot of the bugs used in indigenous cuisine down there, and I feel like you can't really get that here, and so I was just in heaven.
It's a different world down there.
Yeah.
The people are amazing.
Yeah.
Never.
I really had one of the most beautiful, memorable meals that I've had in a really long time there at this place called Alfonsina. It was
Mm-hmm.
so good.
Alfonsina.
It's a little like 4-course lunch spot. I think it was like at his mom's house. You had to make a reservation through like DMing him on Instagram, and it
Oh,
was like
really?
I think I want to say he had previously worked at Pujol,
Pujol.
but moved back to Oaxaca. It was like wasn't in the city center. It was like 20 minutes outside, like out near the airport.
Right.
The food was incredible.
Crazy. Out of his like mom's house.
Yeah, it was a little like dining room they kind of built in the courtyard of his family's little compound,
Yeah.
and food was just out of this world. That was like for me the most memorable. That, and then there's this place called I think it's called Le Conchito de Oro. That's like a late night suckling pig taco truck in Oaxaca.
Ooh,
That's so good. With this like real
chef.
spicy green salsa, like maybe like avocado based salsa, and but it's like it's a truck. I think it doesn't open till like 10 p.m. or something like that. It's a late night,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're there till the wee hours of the morning, and it was really good. We went and got drunk on too much good mezcal, and then
Yeah.
we go get eat our body weight in tacos every night from there.
Fuck yeah. That sounds like a great honeymoon. You probably need a vacation from a vacation after that shit. Sure.
Definitely like some fasting and like drinking a lot of water after
Yeah.
that trip. So
What kind of camera do you have? Do you use?
I have a Nikon Z9 and a Nikon D850.
Okay. What's your favorite?
So the Z9 is pretty new for me.
Mhm.
It can do things that my D850 just can't, but it is a chunky boy. It's probably a little bit too big for me. I will. There are some issues that I have with it that I kind of go back and forth. There are some specific things for me that the D850 is better for just because of the way that the screen moves. I think they made a big deal about how great the little like screen, how it's going to pop out.
Right.
On the Z9, but I actually fucking hate the way that it works mechanically. I actually, for me and my purposes, the D850 for that can do things that the Z9 can't. But the Z9 has a battery that lasts all day. It is stabilized. It's mirrorless. It has pretty incredible lenses that are coming out for it. So, but also some of the lenses that I love, are for the D850, but they have a converter. So I can put my lenses from my D850, which are like an F mount lens, onto the Z mount lens with this little adapter thing that they have.
Okay. And then do you find yourself wanting to go into video?
No.
You want to stay in photo only?
In my dream world, Colin and I are like building a little empire together.
Right,
of
right.
Photography and videography.
So he can go into videography. You're like, I'll stay over here.
I think that he's much better suited to the videography thing than I am. I think to do videography, you really have to be able to multitask in a way that I cannot. I just know this about myself. I am very delighted to be there supporting him when he's doing videography and be there to help and assist. And, we do that a lot for each other. He comes and assists or is my second shooter a lot, and I do that for him a lot. And then we work together a lot. But I think that videography is a little much for me. It's a little scary.
Okay. And then to go back here, you did that talk at the U Summit. Are you doing more of those talks? Can you be booked to do talks?
I mean, that was the first time that anyone has ever been like, hey, can we fly you somewhere to come give a speech? I mean, sure. Yeah, I'm open to giving more talks.
Okay.
Fly me somewhere cool.
Where can people find you if say they're starting a pop up or something like that and they want some work from you? How do they get a hold of you?
My email is hungryhungryhooker@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram at hungryhungryhooker.
Boom. There you go. Hungry Hooker here on Sucio Talk. I think that was better than the first time. What do you think?
I think we did good.
I think we did good for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can just tell everybody now. We did a podcast once.
Yeah. There we go.
And a couple people have asked me. They've been like, where's that episode? So here it is. All right. Don't kill me, people. But yeah, they want to know about you. I want to know about you. We'll do another one. We'll just check in every once in a while.
I'm down to come back anytime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Our last one that we did, it was like 3 hours long.
It was like 3 hours long. We were like, what are we talking about? I don't even. That day I think was just off for everything.
Yeah.
It's just a little weird that day.
I mean, I had a good old time talking to you, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we were like, what did we say?
We decided to
redo
make it a little
it.
More succinct.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Fucking Sucio Talk signing off. Peace. Check out the live show Mondays at 10 p.m. Call in. I forget the number right now, but you can look it up on my Instagram, David_/Sucio. Peace.